girl, I'm still trying to catch up that like Kanye West just came
Yeah.
up to my desk and apologized.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just here.
Why me?
I'm just here to do my
Yeah.
job. Right?
What do you think your superpower has been in enabling you to build the career that you've had?
At 17, I got in a car accident and I lost my best friend in the car accident. She was the driver. I was in the back seat. And for me, in that moment, in the middle of the moment, I literally asked God, how come you took her and not me when the car hit me on my side? And that's why I think he has kept me in this industry for so long. But he's also kind of hidden me these past 5-6 years where, like, ever since TMZ, I feel like I've been hidden, but I've been hidden for his purpose and protection.
How do we go from, being with Warner Brothers Studios to working with the likes of BET to working with Essence, TMZ? Like, what did that transition look like for you?
Wow.
Welcome back to another episode of Trust in the Process with myself, Deborah Chosen. So today we have another guest interview episode, and you guys know I love these episodes because I get to delve in. We get to really go in deep with the person's story and really unpack the gems within. And today's episode will be just that. So we are joined today by none other than Ashlyn Walker. Referred to as that PR and marketing girl, Ashlyn Walker is the founder of GGCI Global Agency, an entertainment and events agency. With a wealth of experience under her belt, she has successfully carved for herself a reputation of a marketing and PR professional who can be trusted with high-profile celebrities and activations all over the US. This remarkable track record has included working with some of the biggest entertainment companies in the world, including the likes of TMZ, where she worked as a news reporter, and BET, where she worked as a publicist. But life hasn't been without its challenges. Through her relationship with God and therapy, Ashlyn has been able to work through the process of grief, having lost her father tragically before she was born. Through her story, we are reminded that it is possible to build a life that you love against all the odds. She's a change maker and disruptor, using her voice and platform to ignite change in various facets. And today, we'll be delving deeper into her inspirational journey. So let's get into it. This is Trust in the Process. Ashlyn, welcome to Trust in the Process. So excited to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. As we were literally just saying, like, this is so long overdue for the both of us. When I think about how we connected, I think it was through social media, but also potentially through a Trust in the Process letters, my newsletter.
Yes.
And we kind of began to share a little bit back and forth, quite a lot actually, back and forth over email about our journeys and just kind of where we were both at. And you're someone who I immediately felt quite connected to and felt inspired by. And I'm grateful for the light that you've been able to be in my life and the moments that we have been able to connect. And so I'm really excited to share your light today on this episode, of course, where we're going to delve in deeper into your story, your journey, how you became that marketing PR girl. So yeah, I'm very, very excited. So those listening, you are in for a treat. But just before we jump into the meat of the conversation, we actually have started doing a thing around here where we have a quick fire round, which is literally just few quick questions, just a fun and playful way for us to get to know you on maybe a more like jovial sense before we jump into the deeper questions. So are you ready for our quick fire questions?
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. All right, so the first one is late night out or quiet night in?
Ooh. Late night out.
Okay.
And I say late night out for like scenic views, like just to drive around, kind of like joyriding and seeing the city when I feel like it's like really quiet, or just even walking to like a rooftop again where I can kind of see the city and reflect in that type of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like a late night drive, I think, especially when like the weather's kind of cool, like it's cooled down a little bit and you can just kind of take things in and hear your thoughts. So I love that. Late night out for you. Okay. Next one, home cooked meal or dining out?
Home cooked meal.
Okay.
1000%.
Yeah. You didn't even hesitate with that one. You just like, feed me at home.
Because I love to cook. I love the process of of home cooked meal versus the food here is getting tricky in the States. And so for me, I feel like you can never go wrong with home cooked meal, but it also kind of brings me closer to like childhood and my grandmother being in the kitchen and cooking and stuff. So I love home cooked meals. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Cool. Okay, so next one is kind of fun, playful one. Kendrick or Drake?
Kendrick, 1000%.
Can I just say that was the right answer? I like to say that I'm not biased in these things, but that one, that was the right answer and that was the wrong one. So you definitely got that.
I didn't
Okay.
even think twice. It was just like Kendrick, and Kendrick.
Yep, yep, yep. There's not even any competition if we're really being honest, you know?
No. hmm
Okay, so the next one, in front of the camera or behind the camera? Which do you prefer?
in front of the camera. It's
Mm.
weird. I think both, but I feel like I've spent so much time behind the camera that I started to love in front of the camera just due to my career. But sorry, I know these are supposed to be playful and I'm taking them
Oh, no,
all
no,
to the
no.
next level.
No, no, no. It's fine. We can go there. But yeah, it's good. It's helpful. We have some insight into what that's like, especially being in the entertainment industry. I find it interesting when there are people who can do both. You know, there's some people who are like specifically, I just want to produce, I just want to be behind the camera. And then there are those who also are comfortable in front of the camera. So I think that's really interesting. And the final question for our quick fire round, if you could have one dream client who you've not yet worked with, who would that be?
Wow. Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
It's a few,
Yeah.
but I think Beyonce came to my name first. I mean, my head first was Beyonce. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, without even expanding, we understand why. I mean, she's literally the queen. So if you're gonna aim for anyone, you're gonna aim high, you're gonna go for the queen. So yeah,
That's
I
true,
can
because
see
then if you
that.
get anybody between, like at least you know that you were like you're almost there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And you always just get to say, I've worked with Beyonce. Like that is your CV moving forward. You don't need to tell us anything else. That's all we hear. So I love
That's true.
that. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing a little bit more with us in this quick fire round. We're now just going to kind of jump a little bit more into your background and your story. So I'd love if we can talk about where it all began. Childhood, right? Little Ashlyn, Ashlyn that was maybe
Oh
in
gosh.
school, Ashlyn that was running around. What was Ashlyn like growing up? I'm interested, like, what did she care about? What did she enjoy doing?
Wow. Dreaming. I was such a daydreamer as a kid. Um, oh gosh, I loved Disneyland. Anything like creative and playful. And um, how was I as a kid? But those were like some of my pastimes was definitely daydreaming. I used to get in trouble for daydreaming, and I would always kind of daydream like about future things I wanted to do. And then also, I loved playing around. So I loved playing with my siblings and playing with my neighbors and things of that nature. And then I would say about, oh God, in church. My grandmother kept me in church.
Hmm.
So I had like a full activities for church. My mom and I were just talking about this, where I either ushered or I was a part of like the Little Angels Choir, which was also like a social time, but also like Jesus time mix in because some of my close friends were in the choir. Uh, and then
Did you
once a
sing
week,
in the choir yourself?
yes, I sung in the choir, but I did not do solo. In fact,
Okay.
one of my close friends, she was actually the one that never really sung until I feel like maybe years later, and her career blew up so much that she was recognized by Prince.
Oh,
But when we were
wow.
singing, we would always get in trouble because we stood right next to each other. We were altos, and she just would be doing watermelon. She would literally go watermelon, doing this whole thing. And our choir director, by the time we got into youth choir, was very, very strict.
Oh,
And middle
dear.
choir was her mom. So her mom, kind of knew her daughter, of course. But then when we got to the youth choir, our pastor did, I mean, not our pastor, our youth ministry did not play. He
Mm.
was very disciplined and like, he kind of gave me like Sister Act vibes. Like,
Oh,
like,
dear. Like,
yeah, with
Rita,
the,
you are not allowed
yes,
to go sing.
yes, yes. And he did not play. Like we had to take music and study it at home. We had to prepare. Sometimes we had choreography. It really prepared us for a lot. And
Mm.
she would never let her talents come out until about
Mm.
like 18, 19, or 20. One time I went back to the church to visit and she did a solo and blew the whole church away. My mom grabbed me. Some people grabbed me and was like, did you know? I was like, yeah, she would sing to ourselves, but she wouldn't
Mm.
sing in the choir at all. And I didn't know she had that strength until
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Now we
Yeah.
know.
Now we know. Yes. And she made it far. Her group was called We Are King. And she went really far.
Yeah, I've
I
heard of
actually got
them.
to see her while I was working at BET one year. Blew my mind. Like, I was like, how
Mm.
do we know we were both going to end up on this side? It was crazy. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. I love that I love that you said you were a dreamer. You were always dreaming. That's really, really interesting because I wonder,
Always dreamed.
yeah, I wonder what role that's played in you ending up in the industry that you are in. I think when we talk about the entertainment industry, it's like it's lights, it's camera, it's action, it's where the dreamers go, it's where the visionaries kind of find themselves. And so you've had a very interesting journey into the entertainment industry. Could you tell us a little bit about that, what that journey has looked like?
So connecting it back to the dreaming at 15, I used to go around and tell my friends. So after school, a lot of my friends would come over from school in the neighborhood. And my grandmother had this thing where she wanted all of us to stay safe. So she rather us be in the house, whether it was eating, working on homework versus being outside of the house.
Okay.
Because it was just a lot of things that we're picking up in the communities.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I would go around and tell them I'm going to be the next female Tyler Perry. And everybody used to be like, okay, we'll see. Like they used to make fun of me.
They're like, okay.
Okay. And so I told them and no one believed me. And at the
Oh,
time, my godfather worked in the industry. He was a second AD, so assistant director. He worked on a lot of music videos. Like we're talking about Khalees and Nas days and
wow.
Jay-Z days, like when all the
Wow.
music videos were like huge. He was
Yeah.
doing a lot of those behind the scenes. And so I would always ask him, can I come and shadow him just so I could like
Mm.
get on set? And he told me I wasn't of age yet. Instead, he used to make me read like the whole Malcolm X book. And then I have to tell him what I learned in the book.
Wow.
He gave me so many assignments. It was crazy. But then he would tell me about the stories at like the award shows and certain things that would happen. He would always call me like after work and we would talk about it. And
Wow.
it kind of like just fueled my dream even more.
Mm.
Um, but I think what really connected me to get the opportunity is at 17, I got into a car accident. And so I'm going deep, but I promise I'm going to bring this back up. Um,
No, no, that's fine.
at 17, I got in a car accident and I lost my best friend in the car accident. She was a driver. I was in the back seat. And for me, in that moment, in the middle of the moment, I literally asked God, how come you took her and not me when the car hit me on my side? I
Wow.
walked away with not a scratch, not a bone. And for there, it really helped made me chase God in such a way that the things that normal teens were probably into, I shut down and started really getting closer to God. Like I went, what we would say like MIA, like at the time, I think it was like Facebook and, what else was going on? I don't think Instagram started yet, but whatever was happening in the social world and people, getting geared up for, I was like, God, you have my full attention. That was my wake up call. So I started seeking God. And at that time, I also dropped out of high school. So I said, God, I don't know what to do because I can't stay in class. My mind is going rapid, but I still have these dreams and these desires. And when I tell you that at 18, my life changed. So the accident was in October. My birthday was March. Everything just like changed for me. I went from being the one no one knew it was going to happen, what was going to happen, to literally not only did things happen for me to like prepare myself, I was able to get a car. I was able to start working. I was able to start filling that void that I was feeling. And instantly my godfather called and said, hey, I'm on set with Snoop Dogg. Can you come? And I was like,
Heck yeah.
yeah.
I ain't
What
got
time?
nothing on. What you mean?
Right. I was like, well, what time? He was like, now. I was like, now. And he was like, when you get here, I'll explain to you what's going on. I said, okay. So I got there and they were filming a commercial for the MTV, the EMAs. I think it's like the
Okay.
European Music Awards.
Yes.
And I think Snoop was like a representative or he was being honored.
Mm.
And as soon as I got there, I shadowed him for a bit. He was working inside. And he was like, go look around, go see if someone else needs help somewhere. So I went into the wardrobe department, which was the wardrobe and hair department. And the hairstylist never showed up. And you have all these models who One of them now, she's a well-known actress. She actually worked with Marlon Wayans in, it was like their sketch of, oh gosh, it was a big popular movie. Great, oh gosh, I have to get the name. It'll come back to me. But they did like a comedy of it. But at that time, she was just, starting out. So I met Lunel, the comedian. I got to actually meet Snoop Dogg. And instantly, I had hair tools in my trunk. So I ran to get that to help the girls get their hair prepared. And I know it was just like, I guess fate. It was insane. I was like, what the heck? Like, and the wardrobe manager was telling me that, or stylist, she was telling me that a lot of the time she gets on set and they don't have hairstylists. They won't show up. They won't show up either because they find out that it's an all, African-American set, and most of them aren't African-American. And so she was just like, let's stay in contact, because she was like, I see this all the time. And she was like, and the girls usually have to do their hair themselves. Some girls come as instructed, like with their hair just like wet and ready for it to be blow dried and curled and all that. And so, yeah, and I was like, and my life kind of just changed from there. Um, and then I wanted to keep, what is the word? Lighting that fire. So, my godmom called me and told me about a program. She worked for Disney for a long time. The Disney Studios in Burbank. And so she was telling me about, there was a program called Streetlights that allowed you to go and study as a production assistant. It trained you to actually be on those type of sets, from movie to commercials, television, you name it. And so I did the program. Deborah, I used to get there and I have a friend to this day that worked with me at that time. They used to tease me. I used to get there. It was all the way in Burbank. I had to commute from Carson. That's about an hour with no traffic, but with traffic, you're looking at probably close to maybe an hour and a half, hour 40. And so, yeah, I used to get up at 5 a.m., get on the freeway by 6, and class wouldn't start till 9 a.m. I would sleep in the back seat of my car. Yeah. And they would come
Talk
knock on the
about
window.
passion.
They would come
Wow.
and knock on the back of my car because they know I would be back there sleeping. They're like, come on, Ashlyn, it's time.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Wow. So, okay, there's lots that's been said, but there's a few things that are really standing out to me about your story and your journey. I think one of the first things, I think it's so powerful that you, after sadly losing your best friend, you went inward. You asked yourself, like, oh, why am I still here? Which really is another way of asking God, what is my purpose ultimately, like without using those words. And I love
Yes.
that you were able to, I feel like God was able to begin to answer that question through just the way you lived your life and through like saying yes to different experiences, whether it was working with your godfather or your godmother, also connecting you to Disney. And there's also, what's interesting there is the role of like having, I guess, mentors. Because I don't know if you saw your godfather as a mentor at that time, but I think of him and I think, wow, for him to have like, he kind of was leading you in a particular direction and you were always willing, and it just kind of happened serendipity wise that like you were available at the time that he needed you for Snoop Dogg. And so I think about the role that having those mentors has kind of played in your life. And what would you say kind of about the influences of the people who you kind of grew up around, like your godfather and your godmother, in the making of who you are today? What role
I
has that
admire
played?
them. I admire them to death. Like anytime that I know I'm gonna call my godfather, I know that okay, it's time to listen versus time to talking. Whereas me and my godmom,
Mm.
our relationship is more different. We're more friendly. We're more laughing. We're more goofing and things of that nature. But she always still instills, wisdom into me and gives me things to think about, like as far as resources that I never think about prior to. And then with my godfather, it's very much so like, I mean, because he's from New York, though he lives in LA, he has like this heavy accent. And
I love that.
and it's always gonna be like story time mixed with like lecture, so it's like, okay, just hush, like just let him talk,
Yeah.
and so I just let him talk and he'll like tell me whatever comes to mind, and he loves God, so he
Mm.
also keeps God at the center. Both of them do, but he'll definitely instill something, and I'm like, okay, I didn't think about it like that, like It even affected me when I make them upset, like, because sometimes I have these dreams that are bigger than myself. Like
Yeah.
when God was telling me to go to New York, and he was
Yeah.
like, why would you go there and not tell me? And it was like, I knew that if I told them or even of any of my family, I probably would have never went.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
just something that I had to do. And so, and I told him once I got there, but he wasn't happy. But then eventually he was like, okay, I get it. I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. The evidence was there. So it's like, okay, cool. Let me calm down.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And okay, so if we go back a little bit, so we're at Disney right now, we're at Burbank specifically. You're in the back of your car, you're sleeping in your car in order to be early. Yes.
Sorry, just to correct you. So it was Warner Brothers Studios that I was called to. And so, yes, I was at Warner Brothers, sleeping in the back of my car. But walking past studios, it was insane. Like one of them was the Wayans Brothers. Good grief. I don't think it was Living Color, but like just some of the most iconic shows were filmed there, and you can see all the plaque on them as you're walking by.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can just imagine how can you not be inspired when you're in that close proximity to that, that atmosphere and to the possibilities and literally the results of other people's hard work. That's so amazing to imagine. So walk me through, how do we go from, being with Warner Brothers Studios to working with the likes of BET to working with Essence, TMZ? Like, what did that transition look like for you?
Wow. Okay. So, so that was so, like production, Warner Brothers. And so what happened was the industry was always up and down. And so there was a writer's strike that occurred. And I believe at the time I was working for Tracy Ullman's State of the Union show as a PA, and writer's strike was occurring. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this up and down, like, but I want to stay in this creative field. Like, what can I do? And so, I don't, again, it had to be God. I was driving in Inglewood, drove past KGLH radio station, and I just heard a voice say, go inside. And I was like, go inside? Okay, like, go inside. So, okay, I parked. I knocked on the door and they let me in, and which is not common, and so I asked them if they were hiring, and the girl in the front, I think she could see that I was like, young. So she was like, oh, we have internships all the time. And she was like, come to this meeting, meet this guy. She instantly told me like, you're going to meet this guy named Greg. And I'm like, okay. And so some time went by, I came back on the day she told me, and I met Greg, and Greg was the marketing director at the time at KGLH radio station, which is owned by Stevie Wonder.
Wow.
And so, right. And so I'm learning all this as we go. It's actually where Steve Harvey was syndicating from when he first kind of went live with radio. And so I get in there, I tell him what I want to do, tell him, the things that my experience. And he said, okay, I want you to work closely with me. He was like, do you know how to run this Facebook stuff? And he's like, because now we're in this era where we have to go digital.
Yeah, social media is a thing.
Right. And they were like, we're not used to going digital. So we need help with setting up everything online to go digital. And I was like, oh, yeah. So there was a team of us. We opened the Twitter. We created Facebook. We did all the social medias for them. And then we also participated in a lot of major events. So time went on. I'm having fun. But then I realized there's not much room to grow because this is still a very small community radio station. And so I was just like, okay, God, what's next? And so this is when the BET story happened. So there was still this dream of mine to be fueled. So I got to rewind really quick. Right before I started going to production assistant at Warner Brothers, I was in church one Sunday and Write the Vision song was being played by the choir. And I never heard that song before. Girl, I had one of those experiences where God started to show me, you're going to create a production company. I was like, okay, so.
Okay, God.
All right. Okay, God, let's go.
We go
and
again.
I'm the type, right. And I'm the type where I'm like very impatient. Like I just go, you gave me an assignment. I'm ready to go after it. But I had no tools, no experience at the time. So fast forwarding back to the KGLH, I decided that I want to create a show about 4 Black guys growing up out of Inglewood, California, wanting to make it. So I just put the script together, the treatment together, because it's going to be reality series. And I asked my cousin and his friends if they could help me. And they're like, oh yeah. So I got a camera guy from, I don't even know where I met this guy from, but I met him and he came out and started filming. He said, I'll edit for you. I said, okay, cool. All he tells me, Deborah, is I need you to come pick this, the editing tape up. And he's like, I'm going to give you this location. Just meet me there. And you can pick it up. I said, okay, cool. I'm driving. I pull up and I literally see BET Networks in front of me.
Meanwhile, you probably thought you were just going to go to maybe his house or
yes!
a little office.
Right.
We're doing.
And back then we still had MapQuest, right? So you had to print out the address.
Yeah.
We didn't have the phone.
That was going to tell you straight away.
That was going to tell me like you're going to a house, nothing. So I just pull up and I'm like, you have to be. And so I call and he's like, oh yeah, just park, come up. Yeah. And I'm like, just park, come up and do what? Like I can't just walk in this establishment, right? Yeah. So he had me sitting in the lobby for 3 hours. He was working in the editing bay. I had no clue what this department or anything was about, but he just had me sitting in the lobby for 3 hours. Another guy moment. Receptionist asks me if I'm okay. The president at the time walks by. She asks me if I'm okay. All these people are, and I'm like, what is going on? So I was like, let me get out of my head and just like start praying. Like, I was like, God, what are we doing? Like, why am I here?
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I'm going to work here, huh? Like just talking to God about it. Like, I'm going to work here, huh? A year later, I end up working at BET as an intern. And the dots about Greg, the director at KGLH, he knew my manager at BET. Huh. He was my way into BET. Wow. I was calling for volunteer position because my godmom said every year they need volunteers for the BET Awards. Asked them about the volunteers. Same receptionist guy, recognized his voice to this day. I don't think he's there anymore, but he was there prior, during, whatever. I called asking, and he said, yeah, I'm gonna forward your call to Sabrina Horton, who is still my mentor to this day. And he says, I'm gonna forward your call to Sabrina Horton. She's over the PR here, ask her. I called, she said, oh, well, I actually need an intern. I was like, huh?
You do?
This is my way of going back to school too. I was like, really? And I was already starting the process, but this was like, it was just full circle. So I was like, what? She's like, yeah. She was like, can you send me your resume? And I was like, okay. And so the last job that's on the resume was KGLH.
Of course, yeah.
I didn't hear from her for a whole month, but I fasted. In our church, we were having fast. It was my first time fasting. It was the month of May. The women's ministry was fasting. And so that whole month I fasted. This is something else I did, but I ended up telling her on the resume, I put that I went to school. And I said, no, this doesn't feel right. I have to tell her. So when she called me, I said, honestly, I'm in school studying for my GED. She said, listen, as long as you go to school, you'll always have a job here. She said, yes. And she was like, okay, so when can you start? I told her today. She was like, okay.
Now.
So I got the job, I think May 23rd, and I started May 27th. Fast wasn't going to end till the end of May. And when I tell you I ran there. And then she told me, she said, there's some favor on you from Greg. She said, I didn't know that you worked with Greg. She said, you should have started with that. She said, Greg speaks highly of you. He says, one day you're going to run the world. I was like, what? It's okay. I'm ready to start. And then it was insane. I was like, what am I doing in here? Like, and of course now I'm in this office setting. So it's kind of getting to me that, people are more smarter than me, more all that kind of stuff. But I said, okay, I have to keep the hunger and the passion. No one can outwork me. So I was coming to work prior to when she would get there. I would get there before her. I would leave after her, ask her if there was anything that she needed. The end of May going into June, it's BET Awards time. So now we're setting up, we're getting ready for red carpet rehearsals, all of this. And so that blew my mind. I thought like Warner Brothers was such a it was BET that blew my mind. I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute,
What is
all of this.
this?
Yes, like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a mixture of production, mixture of PR, mixture of
Mm.
marketing, mixture of social. It was just like all these compartments working together. It was
Mm.
insane. Yeah.
Wow, what a journey. I mean, and to think that this is only part of the story as well, because I know that
Okay.
after BET, I know that if we had all the time, we'd be able to go into all the intricacies. But I know after BET, there's even so much and so many ways in which God is showing up in your journey. But just that segment alone, I mean, there's so much there. I think one of the things that really stands out to me about the way in which you've navigated your career is you've been able to discern which way God would have you go. There's been a sensitivity, it seems like, in your spirit of, okay, that's what God wants me to do, even if it doesn't make sense in the moment. So I think about when you were sat in BET waiting 3 whole hours, which, by the way, other people might have gone, this wait is too long. They might have grown impatient and they might have left and missed their blessing, missed the opportunity. But you stayed, and not only did you stay, you said, okay, let me get out of my head and like get with God, right? And you asked him, what am I doing here? And the fact that he told you you're going to work here one day, and then that was fulfilled. I'm so amazed. But then I also see in you like your character as well, that your character is one of the things that has kind of been able to open doors for you. You said before, okay, you had the imposter syndrome when you got to BET, but you told yourself no one can outwork me, which is really, really key, because though you may not have the experience, you were always going to bring that same grit, that same hard work that you brought even to Warner Bros., which is why you were sleeping in your car, you know? So it's just powerful. I just feel like with your story, it's like you could be trusted with more. God was able to trust you with more. That's why he continued to open those doors. But I want to zone in a little bit on the discernment piece. Throughout your journey, how have you been able to discern whether you're on the right path or not, and what role has faith played in that?
Oh wow. Being able to discern. Trusting God, I think, okay. Since I was young, and I always kind of tell this story. So the missing piece in my life has been my father. So, because he passed away when my mom was pregnant with me. And so anyway, I learned young that God was real.
Mm.
Girl, like, I mean, in ways that my mom and I have spent out on the freeway and car almost flipped over and didn't die. Like just all these different things, like these testimonies that showed me is only God, even at a young age. Being in choir and getting chills, like there was just certain ways I think he was building me up to hear him and to trust him.
Yeah.
So I was like, it has to be God. It couldn't be anybody else. And I think the discernment really came when the accident happened, because in that moment, I heard him. People were outside trying to get us out of the car. Ambulance were on the way. News people were out, and all I could hear was God. I can't, and I know some people go through like major things and then they kind of like move on with it. And I'm like, no, that was God for me.
Yeah.
And so from there, to see all the things he was telling me come to pass, and then I'll have like these monumental experiences. I'm just like, that's the way I'm going. I'm following him through and through because he haven't failed me yet,
Yeah.
And so, my sister was just telling me the other day, she was like, I think that one of your gifts is faith. She's like, you believe and it always comes to pass. And I'm just like, but it comes because God doesn't let me see by what is currently going on. He'll give me a vision
Yes.
of something in the future,
Yeah.
or tell me something in my ear. And then I'm like a daddy's girl in a sense. Like I'll ride his back spiritually, praying hard, telling him, hey, Father God, like, like I always imagine like this 10-footer and I'm this 3-footer begging him, like, you said,
Yeah.
so when are we doing this?
Daddy, where are we going next?
Where are we going next? Because
Yeah.
according to your
Yeah,
word,
you
you
said.
said, yes.
That
And
childlike
so,
faith. Yeah.
yes. And so I just, yeah, girl, I've always just kind of, but there's been times in my career where it seemed like in the beginning, everything was like, and then I kind of went through the wilderness, like entrepreneurship
Yeah.
and failed experiences with jobs. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, what is going on? And I feel like I had to leave out of the country because I had to heal, and I had to grow up. I had to really learn that, okay, God wants something deeper with me, like, an intimate relationship. He wants my full divided attention, because now I believe that where he's about to take me next, it has nothing to do with me. It's going to be all about using him to reach other people. And that's why I think he has kept me in this industry for so long. But he's also kind of hidden me these past 5-6 years where, like, ever since TMZ, I feel like I've been hidden, but I've been hidden for his purpose and protection. I can now see that a lot of the jobs that I didn't get that I really wanted weren't for me based off of what's been coming to the light and things of that nature. But I do feel that when I go back through again, it's not about me. It's going to be fully about him. And what I mean by that is like, oh, fame. Oh, I met this person. He's going to be like, you're on a divine instruction. You're going to have to reach that person, touch that person. I need you to say my name. I need you to bring people to me. That's the only reason why I think I'm here. And especially the production company that he gave me. It was all based on faith. It was supposed to be about spreading God's message and word through plays and movies and things of that nature. And I feel like he's stirring me up for that now too, because now my hunger for production and doing things is coming back again.
That's so interesting. And I think what you can see here is not just discerning like which way God would have you go, but also discerning the kind of season that you're in. So like, what does this season mean? So you mentioned being in a season of being hidden for, I think you said, the last 5 to 6 years. And oftentimes when we enter into those types of seasons, we really wrestle with it. And it's not to say that maybe you didn't go through that phase. I'm sure you had your phase of wrestling, right? It's like, God, I thought we were about to go on a platform. I thought, I was going to be in the spotlight, and we fight against it. But I think what enables us to surrender and to rest is understanding the why behind it. Like just being able to discern that, oh, okay, I'm in an isolation season, but for a reason, which then makes it easier for you to be able to wait and to actually wait well, to do the right things that you should be doing while you're waiting. I want to go back a little bit to your career and the amazing experiences that you've been able to have. There's a scripture, I'm sure you know it, of course. It's in Proverbs 18:16, and it says that a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before kings. So you just mentioned, I think someone said that one of your gifts is faith. And I mentioned before that I think your character has really stood out in helping you get to where you are at. For you, what do you think your superpower has been in enabling you to kind of build the kind of career that you've had? Arguably without, a silver spoon or anyone kind of giving you those opportunities necessarily, you've been able to build that for yourself. What do you think your superpower has been?
Not giving up. So I also have a nickname called Go Getter, and I actually named my company Go Getter, and they would call me that in high school. And so I was just like, okay. And my superpower, girl, just hit me. I think it's crazy. It's going to sound crazy. I always have to go through something in order because it builds me to fight. Right. And I have this mentality where if I don't do it, it's not going to get done or no one else will do it type of thing. So it's like I have to go through all these different trials. Like, okay, for example, my homelessness experience that I had a couple years ago helped me to build my agency because it was like my back is against the wall. What else can I do? Where else can I go? I called a coach through SBA, which is a huge organization out here. And I believe it's funded by like the government and et cetera. But they offer free coaching. They have it in every state. And so I contacted them. I remember that my cousin's mother, she told me about it when I was 18 because I was telling her I used to go around telling everybody I want this production company. And she was like, you want to be an entrepreneur? That word was so strange to me. I was like, entrepreneur? I didn't know what that meant. I was like, no, I want to be in entertainment. She's like, yeah, but you want to also own your own businesses. She used to do auditing for SBA. So 18, she told me that. Here I am at like 30, remembering what she said to me. And I called one day and met with this business coach. And this business coach literally helped me turn my business upside down. I went from making $0 to 90,000 within like the first 8 months. And he was just like, I think I always kind of like lack something, but I just have to go find it, right? I have to go find it, whether it's going back to school, finding a coach, finding a mentor, finding an organization that I can be in that can help me to build these dreams.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Let's talk a little bit about that transition, okay? Because you mentioned that someone said to you, like, you don't just want to work for other people, you want to build your own thing. And I think back to the original dream kind of being production and building this business. So the entrepreneur has always been inside of you, right? But it's a different thing to actually walk that out. So what did that transition look like, going from working from someone else to becoming your own boss with your agency, GGCI? How were you able to balance those two as well, if they were happening at the same time?
Wow. I want to say that the entrepreneurship started to really kick in me at BET. I wanted to start doing more. It was crazy, right? Like, here I have all this experience, not all this experience, but all these, how do you say it? Wonderful opportunities
Yes.
right in front of me, because BT has like a full schedule, full calendar of something, right?
Mm,
And yet inside of me, I was just still like, I want to start something.
mm,
First, I thought I was going to start like Ashlyn Out Loud Media.
mm-hmm.
And they let me. I got to do it for a little bit, and I got to like do the BET Awards, like the experience. I got to cover a lot of the events, did things on media passes. And that was cool.
Yeah.
But Deborah, so many people kept coming up to me from the time of KJLH asking me, did I do any like marketing work? I mean, like singers, artists,
Mm,
actors, like whomever. And it was always something that kept happening from 2012 to, no, 2010 until I actually launched in 2018.
mm.
I could never shake it. Somebody was always coming up to me asking if I did other stuff. And I was like, nah, like, on my own, I'm not ready for that, like in that way, because it wasn't production. It was always
Yeah.
like management, stuff like that. And so, I was feeling it, but I didn't feel the push of it
Okay.
till TMZ. And, that's when the lights came on for me,
Mm,
because I felt like I got to explore throughout like all those different careers, through the BETs. I got to explore like what is that I want to do.
yeah.
And when I got to TMZ, it was like, I want to be a journalist. I want to be a news reporter. I went to school for it. And so I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I found myself doing more PR work, what do we call it?
Crisis
Crisis
management.
management.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anytime a story was getting ready to come out, I would go and call whoever, if I had a relationship with them, I would call their team and ask them for a statement quick.
Mm,
Ask them, do they want to get in front of the story? And so I started to build relationships on
mm,
the side with so many different camps. So after the Kanye West experience, I was just like, yeah, because I fasted the whole time working at TMZ. So I
oh,
said, yeah, I'm ready to go.
wow.
Like, I feel like God needs me more in the field
Mm,
than he needs me behind the scenes. And
mm,
so, because in that encounter, I saw he comes in there with no team. He just comes in there with a stylist
mm,
and another young lady. But that's it. He doesn't come in with anybody, PR manager, anyone to help him.
mm,
So by the time he comes to me and he apologizes, I find myself doing PR work.
mm.
And it was like, okay, this is why I worked at BET. This is why I did the time that I did. And these seeds were being planted in me. And I said, okay. From there, the lights went off. And I said, okay, I'm ready to go. And the next day I walked in and my manager said, don't tell me you're ready to quit. I was like, how did you know?
Dang, it was just all over you. Oh,
And
wow.
we, played it out. Like, he tried to give me like another, because I would always come in. I had like a different shift, so he tried to bring me on earlier. And he was trying things out before letting me go, but ultimately
Mm,
he knew that I was ready to go.
yeah.
And so when I left, all these contacts and relationships I made started GGCI. I
Mm,
think like a week later, I was doing stuff for BET pre-events.
mm,
It was insane.
hmm.
So there was one event, it went crazy. I came in supposed to just be doing red carpet management, but I also helped with the full production, like the layout, as far as, hey, instead of you doing it here, taking it there. And it kind of, everything that I had been working for in the industry was like coming
Yeah.
through this business. And I
Yeah.
was just like, okay, great. And it just was one thing after the another. Then it started Essence. And so excuse me, with Essence, it was like the Essence Festival,
Mm,
the Black Woman in Hollywood. Like, anytime they had something, they would call me to work. And so,
mm,
just all these opportunities started to come, and I was
mm.
like, okay, But I struggled my first few years of running a business. I didn't have any income until I met my business coach. Charlie is his name, by the way. Love him to death. I refer everybody to
Shout
him.
out to
But yeah.
Charlie. Changed the game. I think a few people might want his details, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah. And it probably would blow people's mind because here I am standing on these carpets with these big people, these names, but
As
account
you.
wasn't saying that. As me. An account, I still had to go home and figure out how am I going to eat? How am I going to do this? How I'm going to do that? And then, when the homeless thing really took, I said, I can't do this anymore. What am I doing? And so he pretty much gave me the mirror to see what all I bring to people. And he said, we have to package this. We have to price this. You can't let people walk all over it. You can't let people take advantage of you. And so he truly helped me, gave me a lot of structure, a lot of discipline to give to other people. And then again, in the SBA, they have all kinds, they have lawyers, they have, and I mean, people who are certified, licensed, they just go and I don't know, necessarily volunteer their time because, but they become staff members within the SBA organization to assist other entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Wow. Do you know what's interesting? That looking back through what you ended up doing in your own business, is God was always preparing you, but you may not have even realized. So you mentioned like a lot of the things that you were doing previously at like BET, everything was like, it was almost like a rehearsal, for the grand unveiling of, Ashlyn Walker and like what you would go on to build. And that's why it's also so important, what I'm hearing in your story is like, it's so important to show up well where you are at, because had you had maybe been a little bit tardy or just not been able to build a good reputation for yourself at BET, of course you wouldn't have been able to gain those same contacts who you'd now be able to work with in your own kind of right. And I think what's beautiful about the work that you've done is you've had the opportunity to work up close and personal with some big names, I know you've worked with the likes of Tracy Braxton, Kanye West, which huge deal, and Lisa Ray McCoy as well, just to name a few. And so I can imagine that because you've been able to work so closely with them, you've been able to see their humanity, right, and see like who they actually are. What has been the most surprising thing about working with celebrities for you?
Brother got problems just like that.
I know that's right.
So, meaning that to be able for them to see have their guard down with me, I take that so seriously. And I quickly try to protect almost everyone that I've ever worked with. Girl, even down to like when I was just working on the carpet for the BT Awards, and I've had experiences where, big names have come to me, talk, and would just literally just like vomit things, like just say whatever. And they have never met me prior. And I was just like, okay, God, like, I don't know what this all means, but from there, I think that also prepared me to treat them normal. And so I think the thing that surprised me a lot with them is that they're just like us, trying to figure it out. They just have all these cameras everywhere. They have all these lights everywhere, and they don't know who they can trust. Most of them do not know who they can trust. And then to kind of be with them like on a day-to-day basis and see how on TV they're very like, hey, but then at home,
they're a different
lot
person.
of them are very different person. What?
Yeah. It's funny you're saying this. It's not celebrity, but in my career, I've worked with influencers. I'll give you the same thing at this point. And I noticed the same type of thing that like, on screen, they're like this confident, like really extroverted type of person. And then when I'd be working with them on like a shoot or something, they take a picture and then straight after taking it, they begin to criticize, oh, I don't like how I look here. My face looks like this. Or, you see, oh, you have insecurities too. You're human, you're a human too who also needs a safe space. And I think that with you, when you start to notice that people feel comfortable opening up to me, people feel comfortable like sharing intimate parts of themselves, even though they don't really know me, it just goes to show kind of that you have that nurturing spirit. And again, like you're someone that can be trusted with like people's emotions and with the rawness of the entirety of who they are. You know, I think that that really came through with the interaction you had with Kanye during your time working. I don't know if you want to, if you're comfortable sharing a little bit of that, but maybe if you can talk about again, maybe some of the takeaways about what that exchange kind of told you about your purpose and what you're here to do.
Wow. So I'll tell you. So I found out at 6 in the morning when I first got there that day. And I think because typically I work at night, so I would come in more like, I think my shift was 11 a.m. to about 11 p.m., whereas most of the newsroom was in there from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. That specific day I came in at 6, and I'll never forget, one of my producers told me, hey, we were in the bathroom, and she was like, no one knows just yet. The whole office hasn't been notified, but Kanye West is coming in today. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah. So if you see anything that's interesting, let me know. So, okay. And so his interview that day was also coming out with him and Charlemagne. And so I was sitting there, like my day to day was to kind of like look over things, investigate, in other words. And so, and take notes and take notes. And so I was looking at his interview with Charlemagne, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what people are saying about, Kanye has changed, but with Charlemagne, I still see the old Kanye. Like I saw so much stuff, so many things he had said, and I took note of it. And so then it's being announced to us that he's coming in, and the newsroom literally has about an hour to prepare for him to come in. So pulling up clips, pulling up certain things. And we were told that he was coming in to promote his new album that was getting ready to release. However, I know that he had just wore like the MAGA hat about Trump. So I was like, I feel like this is going to come up in some way. Deborah, my desk is literally like, my desk is here, and the studio where they film is like feet away. So I said, here we go. So they had said something to trigger him. And, the camera is turning to us for our reaction. And I'm like, the camera's looking me dead in my eyes. Girl, I started to like literally try to get out of the camera way.
Subtly, not so subtly. Yeah.
And my mom had it recorded. She's like, why were you shaking around like that? I'm like,
what else was I supposed to do?
Because he's like, who can feel me on this? So how many of y'all understand? And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I don't want to be
caught in the middle of this.
Right?
Yeah. I'm just trying to do my job.
And then he went in to talk about like the 400 years of like there being no slavery. And so now he's ticking off other, journalists and producers within the office. And so Van gets up, he starts, going in. Another guy, Evan, goes off because he said something, towards him. Like it was insane, or towards, what everybody believed in. And so I was just like, oh gosh, this is a lot, like I don't even know what's going on anymore. So from there, he gets out of the studio. He's meet Van at his desk, and so coming back up, he passes up my desk and he stops and he's like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I'm sorry for what? Like, what's going on? Like, I know what you said, but, and he was just like, I'm sorry if I say anything to offend you. Like, I'm glad I came today. This really taught me something. And then he immediately asked for a hug. And girl, I'm still trying to catch up that like Kanye West just came up to my desk and apologized. And I'm like, I'm just here.
Why me?
I'm just here to do my job. Right?
Look, sir.
Look,
it happens.
So it happens, right? Thinking he's going to go on. Yeah. No, his spirit starts to linger by me. So after he hugs me, he still is lingering. And I feel God say, tell him. I'm like, tell him what? In my head. And I feel God say, he's not going to leave until you talk to him. And I'm like, I said, okay. I said, you want me to tell you the truth? He goes, yes. Immediately says yes. I said, I just watched your interview with you and Charlemagne. I said, I saw so much depth. I saw so much heart. I said, I saw you. I said, you cannot let people make you, you can't make people confuse you for who you are. You can't let this atmosphere or anything take you out of character. I said, you have people who love you. You have real fans. I just went in and just told him like, just don't forget who you are and why you do this, in other
Mm.
words. And he asked for another hug,
Mm.
and he was just like, thank you again. And from there, we just got a completely different Kanye.
Mm.
Like, as soon as he went back up to finish the interview, he was like quiet. He didn't say anything for the rest of the interview. And then as he was leaving, he apologized to everyone, and he said that he was going to try to go to therapy, and he was thankful for our time.
Mm.
And then the next day, girl, he called up there and said he fired his team, he fired his publicist, and yeah,
And you
like,
were to blame or to thank. That's
and I was like,
crazy.
what is happening? And
Wow.
then he released a gospel album like 6 months later. And I
Wow.
was like, nah.
Huh.
And I went to see the show. I
Yeah.
went to see like
Yeah.
everything. And then the only thing, and I still love Kanye to this day because
Mm.
I saw something in
Yeah.
him. It was so crazy. The building I ended up moving into, Deborah, they said he was coming in and out of that building about 3, 4 times in downtown LA. I never saw
That's
him.
so interesting.
And I was just like, okay. And I noted, I was like, I wonder, I'm going to either work with him or have another encounter with him again.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like, my job with him isn't done.
Mm. Hmm.
So when he still is out here saying things and doing things,
Yeah.
people are like, oh, F you
Yeah,
on the
everyone's
day.
given
And
up
I'm
on
like,
him. You're like, no,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
more. There's
there's
more. The
more.
work's just not done. Mm.
It's not done
Mm.
because I didn't get a time to really. Now I know, like, he's battling with his faith.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, yeah,
Mm.
I have a lot to say to you when I see you. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk about God.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about some things.
Yeah.
I don't think I can save anyone, right? I'm not Jesus. I don't have that type
Sure.
of power gift, but I do believe
You
that
can be a vessel.
um it could be a vessel,
Yeah.
especially in this industry where you're surrounded by celebrities have so many yes men
Mm-hmm.
around them, people to feed their ego. And here I come, like, I don't have time to feed your
Yeah.
ego.
Yeah.
You're gonna do this and be great, and you're gonna believe in yourself.
Mm.
Everything else I care nothing about. I don't care about your money. I
Mm.
don't care about your fame.
Mm.
Does not impress me.
You care about the person, and I think that's why
Mm-hmm.
he gravitated towards you. Like, if you ever needed a sign that you were in the right place at the right time in your career, like, that's it. It doesn't get as good as that. Like, Kanye could have gone to anyone. He also could have just left, which would probably be the most natural thing to do. But the fact that he felt a tug to come and talk to you just speaks so much to the light that is on the inside of you, and that, like, God is so strategic. You know, you weren't just there to just be a news reporter or just be a publicist or whatever it might look like on the surface. You know, had you not watched that interview, for example, with him, with Charlemagne, and analyzed it in the way that you did, you wouldn't have been able to pull out that insight that, like, you know, don't let them take away who you actually are, and don't forget who you are. And that's all because of that's how God has made you. And it's so interesting because it speaks to the fact that we know the entertainment industry, it can be dark. It can be dark. And I think a lot of Christians are sometimes put off by the idea of working in the entertainment industry because they feel like dark, light, the two can't coexist, so to speak, or they worry that maybe their light will be dimmed because of the amount of darkness that's in the industry. And so as we're kind of nearing towards the end, how do you feel you have been able to stay true to yourself as a Christian in an industry that is, you know, historically known for its darkness, and not allow the darkness to dim your light? How have you still been able to shine your light so brightly?
Um, I don't feed into gossip and rumors about. I hear the things, of course, that happens as far as darkness, but I think what's helped me to stay true to me is that in the back of my mind, I know that I have a purpose, and so I don't let anyone shine me away from it. You know,
Mm.
like all these talks, like I try not to go down a rabbit hole on YouTube or
Mm.
TikTok of all these things, because what I do know and what I do feel is that many Christians, like you said, run from the dark.
Mm.
But we are put here to be used in the dark
Mm.
from the beginning of
Mm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was Adam's purpose. That's why the Holy Spirit was sent. That's why Jesus was sent,
Mm.
you know, and he was around sinners, you know. And so I also think too, my upbringing prepared me.
Mm.
So I had like this mixture. I had this good girl, you know, life because of my grandmother and my mom and like how we were all raised. But then I was also raised around a lot of poverty, a lot of like, as far as like poverty thinking, a
Yeah.
lot of street
Yeah.
culture. And so I used to talk to them like their sister
What
and
they
like their mom.
recognize. Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And I wasn't afraid to go visit them in jail. So I
Mm.
wasn't afraid to go and pray for them. And so, and family members being on drugs and
Mm-hmm.
pulling them out of, you know, crack houses, to just say, call it what it
Mm-hmm.
is, I
Mm-hmm.
think put so much in me not to have fear. So I kind of go into the industry very brave, but I love God so much that if you're around me, you're going to hear about
Mm-hmm.
him, whether it irritates you or not.
It's just part of the package. It's literally what makes you you.
Yes, it
Yeah.
makes me who I am. And
Yeah.
so I feel like I wouldn't be myself if I didn't bring God into everything I did. Like God is the reason why I'm in this industry, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So, again, I don't let the talks and the gossips,
Mm.
um,
Cloud your
bring me
judgment.
down,
Yeah.
cloud my judgment,
Mm.
where, and I also having experiences with other Christians that, like I went to a church and this church I love to death, and he was really trying to bring a lot of the youth out and bring us out of our shell and create us leaders, the pastors. But then we had so many different women that were so judgmental in the church, and men that were judgmental in the church, that also gave me experience of, oh, this is a hot, cold, you know, Christianity. This is people who like to show up, put their ties in them, but they're not really real about saving souls. If there's something that you see in as young people, you know, you should ought to be ashamed and pull us to the side and talk to us versus gossiping about us and making us
Yeah.
feel some type of way. So I didn't really get caught up in the religion.
Mm.
I've always been more spiritual than religious. Like, yes, I know the Bible can quote certain things to you, but I was raised that way. I had to go to catechism for 3 years and study the Bible, but I never fell for religion, you know, and I don't know if it's because I went to Catholic school, went to a Lutheran church, and then went to a Baptist church.
You
I
had
don't
a
know if
little
that
bit
had
of
something to
everything.
do with
Yeah, yeah,
it,
yeah.
but I had a little bit of
Yeah.
everything. And I just was like, I can't judge people. Like, it's just,
Mm.
who am I? These people
Mm.
pouring their heart out to me. I don't want to run from them. Can I pray for
Mm.
you? You
Mm.
know,
That's so good.
can I say some things to motivate you, to encourage you, you
Yeah.
know, instead? And so I think that is my superpower, is that
Mm.
being placed in so many different, not just industries, but
Mm.
even around where people probably be scared to walk into, from crack homes to
Mm-hmm.
jails, and being able to speak life into people and try to bring
Mm.
people out of where their current situation and tell them, don't give up.
Mm.
God has you. There's more
Yeah.
on the other side.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And again, it points to that idea that what I see in your story is God wastes nothing, you know, like he's always been preparing you. I think everything from some elements of your upbringing, maybe other people might have looked at it as less than favorable, right? They might have been like, "Ooh, you know, oh, she grew up with people that were doing drugs or whatever type of thing it might be." These challenges that on the surface you might just decide, okay, well, I'll let the chips fall as they are. I've had hardship. That's just, I guess this is the way the rest of my life is going to be. But actually, I think a lot of that has softened you and has made you someone who is not judgmental, someone who is authentic, someone who can like be with people at their lowest but also like celebrate them at the highest, because maybe you've reached a point where it's like nothing really surprises you. You've been through enough to understand that, you know, we're all human. And that's
Yes.
why God can trust you with working in the kind of industry that you work in, because the darkness could never take over the light, you know, because there's just so much deposits of goodness, there's so much deposits of purpose as well in you, that you're not just there because, oh, this is fun and shiny lights and all to make your name big. You're there understanding that it's to make God known and to show up, you know, in a way that glorifies God. So that's so powerful. And if there was anyone maybe that is in a position where they look back through their life and they're like, man, I have not had the easiest life. Like, I've been dealt some pretty rough cards. You know, maybe it might be losing a loved one at a young age, like you experienced, sadly. Maybe it was, you know, the neighborhood or the community that they grew up in. What would you say to that person just about hope and really about like their future?
Don't give up. And I'm not going to say that cliche.
Yeah.
I'm saying that with saying have faith, because the enemy will try to take you out. He will try to get
Mm-hmm.
in your mind. He will try to take you to tell you in your life that you're hopeless, that no. Anytime that you feel like it's hard to pray, that's when you should pray.
Mm.
and know that God has a purpose for all of us in our life. And with that being said, all you need is hope. Like, faith is as small as a mustard seed. So all you need is just a little bit of faith, a little bit of hope to believe that you're going to get out of this, even if you can't see it. I've had so many seasons where I can't see, to where I'm just like, I have to just keep praying. Like, especially in these past few years, like I've just been praying because I can't see the other side, and it's just like, okay, I have to remind yourself, even through the hardships, you have to remind yourself of the good, right? The enemy tries to rob us of the good, right? One of the goods is just waking up and being able to have breath in your body.
Absolutely.
One of the goods could have been something that you experienced as a child that was like super fun. Like whatever it is that can help you through the darkness, that's what you embrace on. But I just would tell somebody not to give up, because the enemy is fighting for you to take yourself out, fighting for you to go and dive in the deep end of, just he's wrestling with you. Yeah.
Those are beautiful words. And, there's a saying that's like a burglar doesn't go and rob an empty house. So when the enemy is shaking things up, when he's really trying it with you, when you can really feel that resistance, I think oftentimes it's a sign, that there's more, that there is purpose on the inside of you, and that God does have a plan for you. So thank you so much for sharing that. So Ashlyn, we've gone through your journey. I know that we've only kind of touched the iceberg of the amount of greatness that God has done in your life, and the colorful career you've been able to have. But looking forward, what's next for Ashlyn Walker? What do you believe or hope to see next in this season of your life?
I think the production company for sure. Still keeping my PR agency as well. I want to build my empire of whatever God wants me to do. And if that means, and I think that like the PR and the marketing component will just help with the production company. I think it's no need of me like completely exiting that out. But also when he puts me back in those rooms, I'm going to go in there boldly, build those relationships that he wants me to build so that I can connect with people and still do his work. And then right now, I don't really know where he's like exactly where he's placing me. But I have like, I feel like I have like a bit of I've been teased a little, not teased,
no, I
but
get it. Like
he's giving me
glimmer.
a glimpse of it.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I may end up on the agency side of things, which will put me back in those settings and rooms of awards and all of that nature. But I still want to have that time of making sure that I'm still feeding, building the business on the side. So making those relationships. I feel like one thing, I'll just be honest and I'll let you go. I feel there's been a lot of times that I've met some awesome people and celebrities, influencers, executives, and I didn't take advantage of the opportunities. Like saying, hey, let's go build this over here. I think you'll be great for campaigns, and then like getting behind the camera and like expanding their career, doing something of that sort. This time around, I'm going to do that.
Take full advantage of those opportunities.
Take full advantage. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Honestly, I know that wherever God will have you in this next season of your life, it's going to be one of impact, because that's just what the theme of your life has been. Even in like those hidden seasons or in those isolation seasons, like God's still been working through you and working on you. And I'm just so excited for whatever that's going to look like. We will keep our eyes peeled for the production side of things, for the agency side of things, whatever God has in store. But I know that whatever it is, that God knows that you can be trusted. You can be trusted. I think you've proven that to him. And so therefore I'm so excited for what he will do. So honestly, Ashlyn, thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to say briefly, thank you so much for just being a light, not just in the entertainment industry, but, like I said before, like I don't take lightly that the few exchanges we've been able to have over the last few years. You've always ignited something in me. You've spoken life into me, even about this podcast, which is even part of why I'm able to do this. Yeah, like you made me feel like my dreams are possible and that there's more.
Oh, Oh yeah.
That's one thing about you. You're gonna do that, and I have to thank you for that. Honestly, I'm evidence of that, and I'm sure many people will be inspired by this episode, knowing that you do not have to be defined by where you started from, and you can still build a life
No.
that you love, and of course one that glorifies God. So just thank you for being you, and thank you for sharing your time with us here on Trust in the Process. It's been amazing having you.
And I just want to say before you cut the cameras, thank you.
Oh.
Because your newsletters, I think, Deborah, we've been knowing each other for 4 years. Your newsletter came to me when I was in the hotel room. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember. Yeah.
When I was homeless.
Yeah.
So that was 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at God.
Mm-hmm.
Look at God. Thank you.
Maybe before.
Yeah.
Maybe 2019, something like that, like you said, before COVID. And so I saw something in you then, like your gift. And so keep doing what God has called you to do, even if it's scary, even if it scares you. I would say just go with your arms wide open, and thank you. Thank you for creating this platform, because many people need to see it.
You.
And you're a blessing. Don't forget that. You're a light.
Thank you so much. Oh, girl, see, here you go. You just can't help it. The light is just so bright. I mean, you might even notice there's a light that's come out suddenly, and like, girl, that's your effect, the Ashlyn effect. No, thank God for you, and thank you so much for joining us. So we will speak soon. Thank you so much. Take care.
Yes, you too.
Bye.